This is the Washington Times front page for Wednesday, November 19th, 2025. Thanks for joining us. I'm George Gerbo. Both the House and the Senate have acted overwhelmingly to force the Justice Department to publicly release all the files it has from investigating convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. Lindsay McPherson, Susan Ferricchio, and Mallory Wilson report the House voted 427-1 after Kentucky Representative Thomas Massie and California Representative Ro Khanna led a discharge petition to gather signatures from a majority of the House and force a vote against Republican leaders' wishes. The Senate quickly followed suit, approving the motion to pass the measure by unanimous consent as soon as it was received from the House. President Trump reversed his opposition to the effort this week and announced he would sign the bill. House Speaker Mike Johnson also opposed the petition, but ultimately voted for the bill. Trump's name appears frequently in a batch of the files made public by congressional Republicans last week, but emails also show prominent Democrats remained in close contact with Epstein, including former Treasury Secretary Larry Summers and Democratic donor Reid Hoffman. The survivors and the lawmakers behind the discharge petition waited months for the show of broad support for transparency in the Epstein case. Only one member, Louisiana Republican Clay Higgins, voted no. President Trump defended Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman over the 2018 killing of journalist Jamal Khashoggi at the White House as the Saudis announced billions of dollars in new U.S. investments. In return, Tom Howell reports Trump signaled he was considering a key part of the Crown Prince's wish list, access to advanced U.S. semiconductors that would power Saudi Arabia's ambition in artificial intelligence. Trump's affection for bin Salman was on full display during the Oval Office meeting. He called him an extremely respected man who has done a good job in terms of human rights and everything else, despite Saudi Arabia's poor human rights record. The Department of Education announced it will offload billions of dollars in grant programs to other federal agencies, moving the Trump administration closer to its goal of shuttering the department. Sean Salai reports officials said they had signed agreements empowering the Labor Department to administer most K-12 and higher education grants, and the State Department to oversee foreign language education programs. The Interior Department will operate education programs for American Indians, and the Department of Health and Human Services will oversee child care grants for college students and accreditation for foreign medical schools. The partnerships are the latest in a series of actions to implement President Trump's executive order from March to close the Education Department to the maximum extent allowed by law. Because Congress created the department in a 1979 law, Trump requires congressional approval to close it. A federal court has blocked Texas Republicans' new congressional map, saying it illegally denies minorities their voting rights. In a 2-1 ruling, Stephen Dinan reports the court said Governor Greg Abbott and the Republican-controlled legislature racially gerrymandered the new map to eliminate seats held by Black and Hispanic lawmakers, violating the Voting Rights Act of 1965. The ruling is a blow to the GOP's rush to create a more favorable political landscape for next year's midterms. Texas filed an appeal of the map, which was engineered to give Republicans 5 additional House seats. And finally, a report from the Congressional China Commission says Beijing is preparing the country for a future war with the United States. Bill Gertz reports the annual report by the U.S.-China Economic and Security Review Commission also warns that the U.S. and allied efforts to counter Chinese aggression is an urgent problem. The report says over the past year, increases took place in nuclear warhead stockpiles, new amphibious warships, deployment of more advanced stealth fighter jets, and greater fielding of drone weapons. Find all today's front page stories at WashingtonTimes.com/front page or on the Washington Times app, and find us wherever you get your podcasts. You can also find us on social media at Wash Times for breaking news, sports, commentary, and more. For the Washington Times, I'm George Gerbo.